So I talked exclusively to the private investigator that turned on AH. That would be one Paul Baresi. Now, Paul Baresi, he wants to set the record straight. Why? Because Baresi was hired to dig up dirt on JD. Essentially, he was supposed to find something to bury him. Well, after months of research and after hundreds of interviews, he came back. He told her there wasn't anything there. She wanted to bury that story. And you know what? He put it out publicly. Now, that act of heroism led some crazy people to the man's doorstep. They tried to ruin his reputation, his life, his livelihood, and more, all because he told the truth. You and I, we're going to talk about that today. Oh, man, fun times, huh? Fun times indeed. So, hey there to all you fine folks on this fine day. By the way, I hope you are doing excellently. Forgive my voice, too. It is a bit under the weather because of the weather change, but it'll be back in a couple of days. Paul Baresi, though, I mean, this guy, he is intriguing. Why? Because, like I said, he's the private investigator that turned on AH to the point that a spokesperson for AH, they came out and said, Mr. Baresi, he hasn't been involved with AH's team since he was let go last year, and his account is entirely inconsistent with the testimony of multiple witnesses. Now, what witnesses were those, by the way? We never heard from them in trial, and that's exactly what Paul Baresi said, but he said it before the trial. He said there was no one out there that could back up AH's tales. Like I said, I wanted to talk to the man. So, this is what he had to say to me. There's been a great deal of confusion as to the role that I played in the JD versus AH case. And that's true, by the way. There are people out there that say he's some kind of mastermind behind the scenes, like he's been running some kind of conspiracy. And I asked him about that too. I was asking him, is any of that true? Because I know some of the people that were saying that. He's like, oh man, you have no idea. But continuing, he said, AH hired me from, so here's the date range here, July 2019 through September 2019 to find instances in accordance with the bad conduct she alleged about her ex-husband JD. So like he says in his interviews, he went to the U.S., he went to France, Italy, Britain, everywhere that JD roamed to, everywhere he walked, and he couldn't find one instance, or at least an admitted one, where he had physically abusive to a woman. He had smacked or beaten them around. He's like an angel, not one who said a deprecating thing. I interviewed dozens of people who knew him going as far back as 3 decades ago, and nobody had one bad thing to say about him. In fact, they couldn't say enough about his ever-flowing outpouring of generosity and tender heart. And that's what he said too, over and over again when I talked to him. He was astounded by the fact that when he interviewed people, you have this expectation that somebody is going to say something negative. There's going to be something negative in a background. Well, like he said, he went searching for the truth. He wanted to find whatever was there, and he couldn't find one person to back up what AH was saying. Now, this next part of our conversation was something that I found utterly fascinating. Why? Because nobody had ever told me the information that Paul Baresi was going to bring up. He was hired again to look into the past. He was looking for anything whatsoever. He wanted a complete story, and he found something, like I said, I'd never heard of. Listen to this, quote, "What I learned during my 3-month-long investigation was information that the public had not heard about. I found a legal filing disclosing that when JD was 17 years of age, so we're talking about a minor still, his mother lied to a judge, telling him that her minor son was fully emancipated when in fact he was living on the street, sleeping in the back seat of cars and eating canned beans." Wow, when we talk about the struggles, we oftentimes, we don't hear people like JD brought up in those conversations. It's almost like people want to think, well, that guy there, he's lived some kind of charmed life, all the way from 21 Jump Street and even farther back than that. He's never had to struggle at all. This it humanizes JD. You have a guy that is supposed to look into his past, that is supposed to bury him, and instead he's coming back with information that, again, it makes him even more relatable. Oh no, she's not going to like that at all. There was also something else he brought up that I thought was interesting. He said, quote, I found that the circumstances surrounding the disappearance of JD's ex-business partner, Anthony Fox, that suggested a cover-up. Now, when I asked him about that, too, what he said was, when I looked at that, it does look like somebody covered up something. But when I was looking into it to clarify, that has nothing to do with JD. Now, we went into some of the particulars about that. I don't know if you'd want to get into that in a conversation. In fact, if you'd like a live conversation, with him, me talking, make sure that you note that in the comments. That way he knows that people want to hear from him. But, I thought that was fascinating. Continuing, too. So he says, I take all of this stuff here and I compile it. I want an all-inclusive file. This is going to consist of more than 100 documents. So again, 3 months, he's pulled up over 100 documents by itself and an equal measure of handwritten investigative notes chocked full of a great story. So he has all of this together, and again, he feels like it really tells the story of JD, and he wanted to share that with the public. Now, what he found during that is he did get some of that out too, but unfortunately, when he was putting that out, people would misrepresent some of the information that he brought up. He'd have people that would take pieces of the story, they would present them negatively, or when they would present something, they would twist it in a way that made Paul Baresi part of it, and he started getting some of the craziest stuff thrown his way. I asked him, for example, there are people out there that have said some insane things about you. We're talking about them saying that you were involved in a conspiracy. Basically, I'm going to say to rub out JD or to rub out AH. And he said, yeah, I know the people that say that. I know the people that would put that out there. Those people, he can't believe that they take aim at him. And again, it's all because he decided that he would sit down. He decided that he would talk about the truth that he found. And that truth was that he couldn't find anything negative at all to say about JD. And look at the case. Look how it came out. You're talking about years later. Yeah, he was right? You look at those witnesses. He was right. And there's more to this information, too. He had a lot more to say. Like I said, if you want an interview with him, a total one, let me know. But let me know what you think about this stuff. And as always, I appreciate the heck out of you. You make this stuff work. Thank you. I can't say that enough. Forgive my voice again. I apologize for it. I'm just having one of those days. But if you want to help out the channel, links in the description. Definitely check those out. You being here, though, that is the biggest help of all. Thank you. Appreciate you ending here. See you soon.